My parents forged my signature to give my college money to my brother. My revenge took years but was worth every second. Christmas was always a strange time for me. Not bad. Not great. Just strange. I guess when you grow up in a family that treats affection like something rationed, you get used to forcing smiles around the dinner table and pretending everything's okay. But this year was different. This year broke something inside me. My name is Emma. I'm 20 years old now, should be in my second year of college. Should be. I'll get to that. I was always the invisible daughter in the family. Not shy, just observant. My older brother, Daniel, was the prodigy. Star soccer player, perfect grades, did 2 years of college before dropping everything to become a personal trainer at a neighborhood gym. Our parents called it following his passion. I called it Daniel being Daniel. He now lives 15 minutes from my parents' house, has a new girlfriend every 3 months, and is somehow still treated like he's saving lives while I'm expected to be grateful for the crumbs of attention that remain. Growing up, it was always all about him. Every family trip planned around what Daniel wanted. Every holiday according to Daniel's schedule. Every discussion, I was instructed to back down because he had more pressure to deal with. And every time I tried to speak up, my mother would tilt her head and say, "Don't be difficult, Emma. Your brother needs us now." But I dealt with it. Kept my head down, worked hard, and was accepted into a pretty decent university. It wasn't Harvard, but it was solid. And more importantly, it was mine. I had plans. I wanted to study sustainable architecture. I had worked after school and during summer since I was 15, but let's be honest, college tuition is expensive. The only reason college was even on the table was because of Grandma's fund. Grandma was one of the only people in the family who actually saw me. Didn't just look at me, but truly saw me. My father's mother, a former teacher with delicate but firm hands and a voice that could silence a room without shouting. She didn't talk much, but when she did, you listened. She used to take me to her studio and teach me to draw blueprints to understand structures. Not just buildings, she taught me to think. And when I was 17, she pulled me aside during a barbecue, handed me an envelope and said, "I started a fund for you. I've been putting money in it since you were born. Don't tell your parents yet. Just know it's there when you need it." I remember holding that envelope like it was gold. So when I was accepted to college, I told my parents about the fund. They didn't say much. My mother nodded and said, "How sweet of your grandmother." My father gave a non-committal grunt. I thought that was the end of it. A week later, Grandma called me and said the fund had been transferred to a joint custody account, with my parents' names on it too. "Just a legal formality," she murmured. "They won't touch it." Spoiler, they touched it. But I didn't know that yet. The summer flew by, and I kept getting delayed updates about financial documentation. My mother said she was organizing FAFSA stuff, and my father told me to just be patient. I trusted them. Why wouldn't I? This was my future. They wouldn't lie about this. Orientation week arrived, and I still hadn't paid tuition. I kept calling the registrar's office, sending emails, updating portals. Nothing. Finally, the university sent me a notification that I had been withdrawn due to lack of payment. I stared at the screen for hours. Then I went downstairs with my laptop and showed my mother. She didn't even blink. "Oh, honey," she said, putting yogurt in a bowl. "Yeah, about that. We needed to have a conversation." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What do you mean?" She put the bowl on the table and gave me that look, like I was the one being unreasonable. "Your brother needed help, Emma. He's investing in a new business. A gym franchise. We used the money to help with that." I said nothing. Then my father spoke up from the living room, not even looking away from the TV. "It's not like you were going anywhere anyway, girl. Be realistic. You're not the academic type." I couldn't breathe. Not from anger, just from the shock of it all. I thought it had to be a joke, or maybe a temporary loan. But when I asked if there was any money left, my mother said, "We did what was best for the family." The rest of the week was a blur. I didn't leave my room. Didn't eat. Didn't sleep. I didn't even tell Grandma. I was embarrassed and, honestly, afraid of what she would say. Maybe she'd take their side. Maybe she'd say family first, like they always said. But then Christmas came. I almost didn't go. I was 2 days into working at a coffee shop, trying to earn something while figuring out what the hell to do next. But Grandma called and said she had made apple pie, just like she used to when I was a kid, and I couldn't say no to that. So I went. Dressed nicely. Brought a cheap bottle of wine. Smiled when Daniel's friends showed up and made noise throughout the whole house. Greeted my father. Hugged my mother. Waved politely to Daniel and his new girlfriend. Even helped set the table. We sat down to eat. Grandma was at the opposite end, carving the turkey like some ancient queen overseeing a banquet. Daniel talked non-stop about his plans for the franchise. My parents hung on every word. I just passed dishes and chewed quietly. And then, as Mom was pouring gravy over the mashed potatoes, she said it. She looked directly at me and said, "We used Emma's college fund to help your brother. He deserved it more." I froze. Everyone else kept eating. My father snorted and added, "It's not like you were going to take advantage of it anyway." That's when I saw Grandma's hand pause. Just for a second. She slowly put the carving knife on the table. Her face didn't move, but her eyes looked sharper than I had ever seen. She pushed her chair back with a slow scratch against the floor and stood up. The room went silent. Forks stopped clinking. Even Daniel stopped talking. Then Grandma said, calm as ever, "Funny because I left that money in Emma's name." And the room went silent. Nobody said a word. My mother blinked like she'd been slapped. My father suddenly found his peas very interesting. Daniel's jaw twitched. I didn't move. Just sat there, staring at my plate, trying to decide if I was about to cry or laugh. But Grandma wasn't done. She looked at me, then back at them, and said, "Emma, how much of that account did you see?" I blinked. My throat was dry. I never got access. They said they were working on it. Grandma murmured, and her jaw tightened. "And your tuition? Cancelled. Lack of payment." My mother let out a nervous giggle, one of those laughs people give when they're trying to regain control. "Mom, come on. Don't make this a big deal. It's not like we stole. The money was just sitting there, and Daniel needed help. His business." "Stop." Grandma's voice was low, but final. My mother shut up instantly. She looked at me then. "I put that fund in your name from the day you were born. I only added your parents for legal reasons. Never thought I'd have to watch over adults." Daniel finally spoke. "Can we not do this now? It's Christmas." "And Emma, seriously," he continued. "You weren't even that excited about college anyway. You told me last year you weren't sure." "That's not what I said," I replied softly. "I said I wasn't sure which major to choose yet. But I was going." Dad leaned back in his chair with a sigh, like all this was beneath him. "Look, it's done. The money's gone. You think this family doesn't make sacrifices for you too, girl? Your brother needed help. What were we supposed to do? Let his opportunity pass while you play architect?" And there it was. It was always this. Daniel was tangible, tall, present, needy. My dreams were invisible, easy to ignore, easy to minimize. Grandma sat back down slowly, her plate untouched. She didn't say another word that night. And neither did I. The weeks after Christmas were some of the loneliest of my life. The silence didn't just come from me. It came from Grandma, too. I didn't know what was happening behind the scenes. But something changed. When I called her a few days later, she answered with short sentences. "Working on something," she said. "Be patient." Meanwhile, things at home got colder. I tried not to provoke fights, but every interaction with my parents felt like a minefield. They acted like I was the problem. Like I was punishing them for being good people. "You're sulking." My mother snapped one afternoon when I didn't respond about dinner plans. "I'm thinking," I said. "You're being ungrateful." I didn't respond. I couldn't. Because if I opened my mouth, I didn't know what would come out. And Daniel? He acted like nothing had happened. Sent me some memes on Instagram like we were best friends. At one point he asked if I could help him set up equipment at the new gym. I didn't even respond. Then Grandma called me the week before New Year's and asked if I could come over. Alone. Her house was quieter than I remembered. The walls were lined with old photos, blueprints, and faded calendars. She served me a cup of tea and sat me down at the kitchen table like we used to do when I was 10 and learning to draw blueprints. Then she handed me a folder. Read. Inside were photocopies of bank statements, transaction records, and a printout of a college savings plan, one with my full name on it. There were dozens of entries labeled automatic deposit, monthly, going back almost 2 decades. Then, abruptly, a single withdrawal. $58,000. Daniel's name was on the memo line. I didn't even know they could access this without telling you, I said, my hands trembling. They shouldn't have been able to, Grandma murmured. But the way I set it up, they technically had power of attorney while you were still a minor. And your mother requested an early disbursement for educational expenses 3 weeks after your 18th birthday. But that's illegal. It's a gray area, she said and tapped the folder. I've been talking to some people. But more than that, what gets me is the lie. They didn't even tell me. Your mother forged a letter. Said you approved. I felt like I was going to throw up. They always do this, I said. They always say it's for the good of the family, but really it's just for Daniel. I don't matter to them. Unless I'm useful. Grandma looked at me firmly. You matter to me. You always have. I nodded, but didn't believe it. Not yet. Not completely. Then she slid a key across the table. What's this? Studio. Bottom drawer of the red drafting table. Open the envelope. That night, I found the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note that said, if you need to disappear for a while, use this. Folded inside was a check for $3,000. Cashable. No strings. And below that, a short list of job openings. Internships at architecture firms. Remote design work. Even a contact name at a sustainable studio in Portland. I sat there for hours, just reading that note over and over. But the thing is, I didn't want to disappear. I wanted to fight. New Year's was the next storm. I knew it would be. And maybe I should have stayed home or ghosted everyone like I originally planned. But something in me needed to see. Needed to witness one more time before making my move. Daniel showed up driving a new car, an imported sedan that I found out later had been co-financed by my father. He brought the girlfriend of the moment, a blonde who wouldn't stop taking selfies. They spent the whole night talking about the gym's grand opening expansion plans, how he was going to revolutionize local fitness. My parents hung on every word. My mother even posted on Facebook, so proud of my entrepreneur, with 3 photos of him in front of the still under renovation building. I got a pair of socks. Again. Practical, my mother chirped. You said you're working now. You're going to need them, my father added, not taking his eyes off the game on TV. I looked at the tree, overflowing with boxes labeled for Daniel, for the best son, for our champion. And then I looked back at my socks. I felt something in me break. But I didn't scream. Didn't throw anything. Just excused myself, went to the kitchen, and called Grandma. She answered on the second ring. Are you ready? She asked. Yes, I said. Let's do this. The week after New Year's, I stayed quiet. Went to work at the coffee shop. Nodded when my parents told me to clean the basement. Even agreed to help Daniel paint the gym's reception area one afternoon while he supervised from his phone. But underneath it all, I was planning. I was meeting with Grandma's lawyer. I was gathering screenshots, documents, and bank statements. And more than anything, I was preparing for war. I wasn't going to scream or beg. I wasn't going to make emotional appeals that would fall on deaf ears. I was going to be smarter than them. And soon, they would realize exactly what I had become. Not the quiet, grateful daughter they could guilt into silence. Not the family's spare part. But something completely different. And the first blow would happen in mid-January. There was something poetic about hitting rock bottom in the middle of January. You'd think starting a new year would be like a blank slate. But for me, it felt like the last nail in a coffin I didn't even realize I was lying in. I was 20 years old, living in my childhood bedroom surrounded by old posters of bands I didn't listen to anymore, working part-time at a coffee shop while pretending not to hear my parents whispering about how I was wasting my potential. Daniel had just opened the gym. Had an opening party with a DJ and everything. I got an invite by a text message 2 hours before. The worst part? I started to believe them. I started wondering if maybe they were right. Maybe I was too weak. Maybe I hadn't fought hard enough for college. Maybe Daniel really did deserve the money more than me. He had a business. He had responsibilities. I was just a girl with a backpack full of sketchbooks and a heart full of foolish dreams. The doubts hit harder at night. I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, trying not to cry, trying to breathe through the weight sitting on my chest like a stone. My friends had gone to college towns, frat parties, study groups, futures. And me? I spent 8 hours making lattes and pretending not to hear my coworkers call me the quiet girl with the messed up family. But somewhere in that silence, somewhere in that emptiness, something inside me started to change. I think pain does that. When the people you love rip out your foundation, you either crumble or build something new. So I started building. Quietly. On nights when I didn't have a shift, I went to Grandma's house. We'd sit in her studio, surrounded by the smell of paper and drafting ink. And she taught me things. Real things. Not the kind of thing you learn in a classroom, but the kind that makes you useful. Basic interior design. Low-cost renovations. How to read old blueprints. How to identify structural problems in old houses. She even taught me to use 3D modeling software, programs she had learned herself after retiring just because it was fun to keep the mind sharp. And every time I messed something up, she never yelled. Just nodded and said, "Try again." It was the first time in months I didn't feel broken. One night, after we spent 3 hours redesigning the layout of an imaginary kitchen, she looked at me and said, "You're smart, Emma. Not just book smart. Creating smart. Don't waste that." It stuck. During the day, I worked. At night, I learned. And somewhere in between, I started saving. It wasn't much at first. A few rays here, 10 there. I stopped ordering delivery. Canceled subscriptions. Sold some old books and clothes I didn't wear anymore. Every real I didn't spend, I saved in a metal box Grandma gave me. She called it seed money. "It doesn't matter if it's small," she said. "What matters is that you make it grow." Around mid-February, I discovered a Reddit group about budget interior design. People posted photos of tiny rooms, ugly apartments, impossible spaces. Some asking for help. Others posting transformations. An idea clicked. I grabbed my phone and started filming. Nothing fancy, no face on camera, just my hands, some cheap thrift store materials, and my voice explaining what I was doing. I took a dead corner of my own room and transformed it into a functional workspace using only crates from the market and leftover paint from the garage. I posted the video under the name Emma Redesigns. It got 12 views. I didn't care. I made another. Then another. By the end of March, I had posted 15 videos. Most had fewer than 100 views. But then I posted one about how to transform a cramped closet into an organized closet using PVC shelves. And out of nowhere, it reached 5,000 views. I didn't sleep that night. Not from excitement, but because it was the first time in months I felt like I mattered. I started learning basic editing. Added captions. Improved my lighting. Even bought a secondhand microphone with my first YouTube payment, 43.80 Brazilian reals. It wasn't much, but it felt like a beginning. Meanwhile, the house felt different. My parents barely spoke to me, and when they did, it was usually to ask why I was always locked up in Grandma's room. My mother accused me of being obsessed with her. My father said I should grow up and move on. Daniel, of course, remained cheerful and oblivious. Every time he showed up, he gave me that same saccharine smile and said things like, "Are you still mad about that college thing?" As if it were a spilled drink. As if I should have already gotten over it. I said nothing, but I remembered everything. And I kept planning. Grandma was working behind the scenes too. I didn't know all the details yet, but every week she dropped cryptic hints. Timing is everything. Don't let them see you coming. Let them think you're weak. Makes the punch hit harder. We were working on something. I just didn't know the full picture yet. But I trusted her. And I kept building. In April, my channel had 1,500 subscribers. I had partnered with a small company that sold organization kits. And suddenly, I was earning 400 Brazilian reals a month. Nothing huge. But compared to where I'd started, it was gold. I took that money and reinvested. Better materials. Better camera. A real laptop, used but functional. I also started freelance work online, creating simple floor plans for small businesses, editing videos for other small creators, doing virtual design consultations for 50 Brazilian reals an hour. Every real I earned, I split. Half in savings, half in a new project Grandma and I had been sketching on graph paper. I called it RenovaBox. It was basically a subscription kit for small room makeovers. Simple materials, instructions, a link to a tutorial video I would film every month. We built 3 prototypes by hand. Grandma said it was the best idea she'd heard in 20 years. And for the first time, I started to believe her. Then came the breaking point. It wasn't a big explosion. It was something small. Isn't it always? One Sunday in May, I came home from work and found my money box missing. I tore apart my entire room. Searched every drawer, closet, under the bed, behind the dresser. Nothing. I ran downstairs and found my mother folding laundry. "Did you see my metal box?" I asked, already knowing the answer. She didn't even blink. "Oh, that old ugly box? I gave it to your father. Thought it was part of Grandma's junk. There was money inside." She frowned. "What kind of money?" "My money. Every cent I earned." "Oh, please, Emma." She rolled her eyes. "You're living here for free, eating our food. Don't act like you're paying bills. We needed help. Daniel's gym is having cash flow difficulties." "I earned that." "Enough," she snapped. "Your brother is building a future. Be part of the family for once." That was it. That was the exact moment something in me shattered and solidified at the same time. Didn't break. Solidified. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't even going to try to make her understand. I was done explaining myself. I just nodded, turned around, walked out the front door, and went straight to Grandma's house. When I told her what happened, she didn't even seem surprised. Just sighed, handed me a cold soda, and said, "Are you ready to go nuclear?" I didn't hesitate. Yes. The next day, I quit the coffee shop. 2 days later, I posted a video that went semi-viral, how I turned 400 Brazilian reals in tools into a full-time job. By June, I had hit 8,000 subscribers. RenovaBox was ready for soft launch. And Grandma? She finally told me her full plan. It was bold, risky, but it was ours. And if it worked, it would be the beginning of the end for everyone who had discarded me, because they thought they had buried me. But I wasn't buried. I was planted, and I was just starting to grow. It was a warm night in early June when everything started to come together. I was in Grandma's studio, sitting on an old stool, looking at a whiteboard we had filled with notes, sketches, deadlines, and a 3-word title circled in thick red marker. The preparation phase. That's what Grandma called it. As if we were planning a heist. In a way, we were. Not the kind with ski masks or vaults, but the kind that requires precision, patience, and timing. The kind where you don't break down the door. You let them open it themselves and invite you in. My revenge wasn't going to be loud. It wasn't going to be messy. It was going to be elegant. I spent the rest of June operating like a ghost in my own house, smiling when they talked to me, helping when they asked, pretending the stolen money box didn't matter, as if I wasn't posting design videos that were now reaching 200,000 views, as if I hadn't filed a quiet report with the State Department about a forged disbursement document linked to my name, as if Grandma hadn't just met with a lawyer to restructure a trust fund in my favor, all while playing the role of the neglected, failed daughter with a hobby channel and too much free time. My parents were too busy focusing on Daniel's drama. The gym was having problems. Few members. Broken equipment. Overdue bills. He had stopped paying the girlfriend, who consequently left him. My mother was constantly on the phone with him, offering advice, money, emotional support. My father would go there to help, but really just sat around complaining about the younger generation. They didn't notice I started coming home later and later, my clothes smelling like paint and hot glue. Didn't ask why I had a P.O. box. Didn't wonder why I was carrying a new laptop. Didn't question why I stopped asking them for anything. Which was perfect. Because the less they looked at me, the more freely I could move. In the second week of July, I launched RenovaBox. Soft. Quiet. No ads. Just a post on my channel and a mention on Reddit. I had 60 units. Sold out in 48 hours. Each box contained a simple toolkit, an instruction manual, and a QR code linking to an unlisted video. Month 1. How to create an accent wall with tape and paint. It was basic, but people loved it. By the end of the month, I had 250 new subscribers, 700 email signups, and over 400 people on the waiting list for the next round. I reinvested every penny into building the next batch. Grandma and I practically lived in the studio. We printed, packaged, and labeled everything ourselves. She let me use her credit card to buy materials, and when I asked if she was sure, she just smiled and said, "Emma, this is the most fun I've had since I taught your mother to drive. Only this time, I'm not putting a roof over someone who doesn't deserve it." Around the same time, I started reaching out to people from my past. One was Sophia, a girl I went to high school with. She was one of those overachievers who had been president of like 4 clubs and ran a tech blog. We hadn't talked much before graduation, but I remembered her saying she wanted to launch a startup for creator tools. We met for coffee at a local cafe. I told her what I was building. She looked at my sketches and said, "Dude, this could be huge." Within a week, we were brainstorming how to turn RenovaBox into a real platform. Not just physical boxes, but complete digital design courses, tiered subscriptions, even an app with augmented reality overlays to visualize room changes. I didn't even realize how excited I was until I saw myself talking in the cafe window's reflection. Hands flying, voice animated, face lit up in a way it hadn't been since before college fell apart. Sophia introduced me to her cousin Lucas, a marketing student who offered to help with branding and outreach. He brought in another guy from Reddit, known only as Pixel Architect, to help build the app's backend. And suddenly I had a team. We called ourselves Emma Designs. And we had plans. Meanwhile, Grandma had her own role to play. She started showing up to more family events. Barbecues. Church gatherings. A Father's Day lunch where she wore a t-shirt that said, "Ask me about my favorite granddaughter," with an arrow pointing at me. At first, my parents thought it was a joke. Daniel laughed awkwardly. My mother rolled her eyes. My father muttered something about favoritism. But when Grandma kept doing it, mentioning me in every conversation, pulling me into photos, talking about Emma's little project, they started getting nervous. Especially when she announced, quite casually, that she was rewriting her will. "You don't need to worry about that," my mother said, laughing. "We're not after your money, Mom." She just smiled. "I didn't say you were. But it's good to make things clear." And the look she gave her? My mother felt it. Around the same time, I got a call from the student aid office. They had received my inquiry about the unauthorized use of funds linked to my education. Apparently, the letter my mother submitted to access the money included a poorly forged signature. Mine. One I could easily prove wasn't mine. They were investigating. Quietly, but thoroughly. I didn't say anything to my parents. Just watched as my mother got more tense every day. Watched her start checking the mail twice. Watched her spend more time near the phone. Then one day in early August, she cornered me in the kitchen. "I feel like you're hiding something." I looked up from my cereal bowl. "Like what?" "I don't know. You're always out. You and your grandmother are always whispering. And you're smug." "Smug?" "Yes. Like you're waiting for something to happen." I shrugged. "I guess I'm just focused." She narrowed her eyes. "Are you talking to lawyers?" "No," I said honestly. "Not just lawyers." She didn't like that. And I didn't care. Because her worry wasn't about me. It wasn't about what I might be going through. It was about control. And she was losing it. Fast. Mid-August, I hit 35,000 subscribers. RenovaBox had 800 active monthly users. The Emma Designs app prototype was in beta. And then, like clockwork, it happened. Daniel asked for more money. Specifically, he asked if Grandma could help with that month's gym rent. Apparently, the business wasn't doing well. Members canceling. Old equipment breaking. Competition from a new, cheaper gym across town. At a family dinner, he brought it up in front of everyone. "Grandma," he said sweetly, "you've been helping Emma so much. I was hoping maybe." No, Grandma said before he could finish. Everyone froze. Excuse me, my mother blinked. I said no, but you took $58,000 from Emma's future and didn't even say thank you. You're not getting more. My mother jumped in. Mom, that was almost a year ago. 11 months. And it was for your family's convenience. Not for the good. I watched them squirm, holding back a smile. And then Grandma turned to me. Emma, would you like to share your news? I stood up, cleared my throat, and said, actually, yes. I was accepted into a special business acceleration program. It's competitive. Only 12 creators selected nationally. They're funding our product development and providing legal support. I'm moving next week. My mother looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. Daniel blinked rapidly. My father leaned back, silent. And I just smiled. I start pitching to investors in September, I added. It's a 6-month program. If we hit our goals, we get follow-on funding, equity-based. I could have added more. Could have rubbed it in. But I didn't need to. Because the silence in that room, it was better than any monologue. Later that night, Grandma handed me a small envelope. Inside was a key. For your new place, she said. I thought the accelerator provided housing. It does, she said. But I bought something extra for you. A duplex apartment. Good bones. Cheap. In your name. Call it an investment. I stared at her. Why are you doing all this for me? She smiled. Because they forgot who you were. But I never did. The next few days were a blur. Packing. Paperwork. Finalizing app updates. Announcing my departure. And then I left. I moved to a modest apartment in a new city, surrounded by ambition, mentorship, and momentum. My channel hit 80,000 subscribers. My business had its first 15,000 Brazilian reals month. And back home, the walls were starting to close in. The investigation was nearing completion. And I still had one last move to make. In September, everything started to converge in a way I could never have planned alone. The leaves were starting to fall. The air was getting cooler. My channel surpassed 120,000 subscribers. Renovabox had become a full business with monthly recurring revenue, glowing reviews, and an official LLC. Our app, Emma Tools, was being downloaded in over 40 countries. My face still didn't appear in the videos, just my hands and voice. But people knew me now. Not as Emma, the spare daughter, or Daniel's weird sister, but as the girl who could teach you to transform your life with creativity, planning, and determination. And while all this was growing, the real preparation at home was finally reaching its climax. I got the call at the end of September. It was Mrs. Mendez, the woman from the student aid office. Miss Owens, she said, and from the formality in her voice, I knew it was serious. Our investigation into the unauthorized withdrawal from the fund has been completed. Thank you for your patience. I didn't speak. Just listened, my heart beating like a drum. We confirmed that your signature was forged and that the disbursement was requested under false pretenses. The case is now being referred to the local district attorney for possible criminal charges. We've also contacted the financial institution that processed the withdrawal. They are cooperating fully. I took a deep breath. And what about the money? As the original beneficiary of the 529 account, you are entitled to restitution. We're coordinating with the fund's custodian, Mr. Walter Owens. My grandmother, I said. Yes. She's been incredibly helpful in this process. That's when I allowed myself a single nod. Checkmate was near. I didn't tell my parents immediately. Why? They hadn't even bothered to check how I was doing since I moved. Not a text. Not a call. Not even a half-hearted hope you're well comment on any of my videos. But Daniel? He finally spoke up. I got a DM on Instagram in October. It was a long text. Started like this. Hey sis, I'm sorry if things got weird. I know you're upset about the money thing, but you know I was in a tough spot. The gym was my dream. You understand, right? You've always been so understanding. Can we talk? I didn't respond. 2 days later, my mother called. This was rare. She never initiated contact unless she needed something. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message that started like this. Emma, we heard something strange from a friend at the bank. Something about an investigation? Please call me back. We need to clear this up. There's no reason to make this a legal matter. We're family. I didn't call back. Because there was every reason to make it a legal matter. They took what wasn't theirs. Lied about it. Forged documents. Used me as an excuse to fund someone else's life. And then had the audacity to act like I was the selfish one for wanting it back. So no. I didn't call back. I forwarded the voicemail to Grandma. She laughed so hard she had to sit down. A week later, they were served. I wasn't there to see it. But I got the rundown from Grandma. My mother apparently answered the door in a bathrobe, expecting a package. Instead, she got 2 manila envelopes. One from the district attorney's office about pending charges of financial misrepresentation and fraud. The other, a civil suit filed by me for damages, breach of fiduciary duty, and restitution of funds withdrawn from my educational account. The best part? The header had my full name at the top. Emma Caroline Owens. Founder, Emma Designs, LLC. I was no longer the passive daughter. I was the plaintiff. They called, texted, sent emails, begged. I didn't respond to any of it. Instead, I issued all communication through my attorney. Her name was Dr. Camila Reese. Sharp, fearless, and efficient. She had graduated top of her class and hated family financial abuse. Let them squirm, she told me. They deserve it. And squirm they did. They tried to minimize. Tried to act like it had been a misunderstanding. But when the forged signature was presented alongside my real one, there was nothing left to argue. And the financial institution? They didn't want bad publicity. Offered a quick settlement. My parents were cut out of the process completely. It was poetic. The same account they raided ended up reimbursing me without their consent. But I wasn't done. The restitution money came. Plus penalties. Over 95,000 Brazilian reals total. I didn't need it anymore. So I used it publicly. I donated half to a nonprofit that funded vocational education for low-income teens. The other half? I used to fund the first full-scale production of Renovabox in 5 states. I made a video about it. Didn't mention my family. Didn't name names. But I ended the video with a line that hit harder than any accusation. Sometimes, the people who should believe in you most don't. And that's okay. Because if you stay quiet enough to build, one day they'll have no choice but to watch. That video reached 2.1 million views in a week. My inbox exploded. A brand deal proposal from a tool company. A request to appear on a business podcast. Even a school district asking if I'd build a curriculum. It was surreal. I had gone from ignored and invisible to unstoppable. Thanksgiving came around again. Grandma invited me to her house for a small dinner. Just us, some of her friends, and Sophia and Lucas from Emma Designs. The vibe was light, warm, joyful. And just as we were finishing dessert, Grandma pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a silver ring. Old, but polished. It was your grandfather's, she said. He gave it to me when I built my first project on my own. He said, "It's not about money. It's about making something. And you, Emma, made something bigger than any of us imagined." I put it on my finger. It fit perfectly. The fallout at home wasn't pretty. The criminal charges didn't stick. First offense. No priors, blah blah blah. But the public record? That remained. Daniel lost several gym clients when the scandal hit the small-town local news. My father had to resign from the board of a local credit union. My mother stopped showing up to her book club. And Grandma? She rewrote the will, made it public, and left a copy on their door. Everything. Her house. The land. The savings. It was going to me. She didn't do it to punish them. She did it to protect me. But I won't lie. That part felt good. I haven't spoken to them since. They still try. Every few months. A birthday text. A forwarded article. A half-hearted "we're proud of you" comment from a fake account on one of my videos. But I don't engage. Not out of spite. For peace. Because I learned something important. Revenge doesn't need to be loud. Sometimes, it's just living your life so fully and freely that the people who tried to break you have to watch you shine from a distance they can never cross. Now, every time I transform something, whether it's a broken engine or a broken belief, I remember who I was, who they tried to convince me I'd always be. And I smile. Because they were wrong. And I was never going nowhere. I was going everywhere. The duplex apartment Grandma bought for me became more than just a place to live. I transformed half of it into a professional filming studio. Clean white walls, proper lighting. Organized shelves displaying tools and materials. It was where I film now. Where I created. Emma Designs grew beyond what any of us expected. By December, we had 200,000 channel subscribers. RenovaBox had over 2,500 monthly paying subscribers. The Emma Tools app had been downloaded in over 60 countries and was generating consistent 5-star reviews. But what surprised me most weren't the numbers. It was the messages. I received hundreds of them every week. From girls who had been belittled by their families. From women who had their dreams stolen. From people who thought they could never get back up again. One message in particular stuck with me. It was from an 18-year-old girl named Beatrice. My family used my college fund to pay my brother's debts. I thought my life was over. But I found your videos and realized I can still build something. Thank you for showing me that invisible doesn't mean powerless. I cried when I read that. Because that was exactly what I needed to hear a year ago. So I decided to do something about it. In January, I launched the Emma Designs mentorship program. It was free. Completely. We accepted 50 young people per quarter, mostly women aged 16 to 25 who had been neglected, financially abused, or simply never given the chance they deserved. We taught basic interior design, content production, business skills, and most importantly, how to believe in themselves again. Sophia led the technical side. Lucas handled marketing. Pixel Architect built the learning platform. And me? I was the voice. The face I finally showed on camera. Not to promote myself, but to show them that someone who had been buried could grow. The program exploded. Local media covered us. Then national. A business magazine wrote an article called How a 20-Year-Old Girl Turned Family Betrayal into a Design Empire. I got invitations to speak at universities, entrepreneurship conferences, women in business events. And at every event, I told my story. Not with bitterness. With honesty. My family took my future and gave it to someone else, I would say. But I realized they couldn't take what I built with my own hands. Nobody can. People listened. And more importantly, they believed. Meanwhile, back in my hometown, things continued to crumble for my parents and Daniel. His gym finally closed in February. Couldn't compete. Couldn't recover from the scandal. Couldn't pay the bills. I heard he moved back in with my parents. That the new girlfriend had left when the money ran out. That he was working part-time at a bigger gym, as a regular instructor. I didn't feel joy about it. But I also didn't feel sorry. My mother apparently tried to start a blog about navigating family misunderstandings. It had 14 followers. All bots. My father? Still watching TV. Still grumbling about how the younger generation didn't know the value of hard work. The irony wasn't lost on me. And Grandma? She was thriving. At 73, she had become something of a local celebrity. People stopped her at the market to ask about that talented granddaughter. She wore t-shirts I had made. I invested in the right granddaughter was her favorite. We talked every week. Sometimes every day. She still taught me things. Still challenged me. Still believed in me when I doubted myself. You know what the best revenge is? She told me one night during a video call. It's not them seeing you succeed. It's you not needing them to see anymore. It's when their success no longer defines your worth. She was right. In March, something happened I didn't expect. I received a letter. Through the regular mail. Handwritten. It was from my mother. My first reaction was to throw it away. But curiosity won. I opened it. The letter was 3 pages. Hastily scribbled words. Some smudged, like she'd been crying while writing. It said things like, I never wanted to hurt you. And I thought I was doing what was best for the family. And your brother needed so much at that moment. But the part that got me was near the end. I watch your videos sometimes. From accounts you don't know are mine. And I feel proud. But I also feel ashamed. Because I realize now that you never needed us to succeed. You needed us to get out of the way. I folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, and stored it in a drawer. I didn't respond, but I also didn't throw it away. Because maybe, deep down, there was still a small part of me that wanted them to understand. But understanding wasn't the same as reconciliation. And I was at peace with that. In April, Emma Designs signed its first major corporate contract. A national hotel chain wanted us to redesign their economy suites to be more functional and aesthetically pleasing. It was a 6-figure contract. Sophia, Lucas, Pixel Architect, and I celebrated that night. Not with expensive champagne or fancy dinner, but with cheap pizza and soda in my duplex, sitting on the floor, laughing about how far we'd come. Remember when you had 8 subscribers? Sophia teased. 12, I corrected. And half were bots. Lucas raised his soda cup. To Emma. For showing us you can build an empire from crumbs. We toasted. And in that moment, I realized something. I wasn't building to prove something anymore. I wasn't building for revenge. I was building because I loved it. Loved creating. Loved teaching. Loved seeing other people find their own strength. Grandma passed away in May. Peacefully. In her sleep. She was 74 years old. They found her in her favorite chair in the studio, surrounded by old blueprints and photos of me. In her hands was a sketch we had worked on together months before. A design for a small community center I wanted to build someday. The funeral was small. Only the people who really knew her. Her friends. Her neighbors. Me. My parents tried to show up. Tried to sit in front, act like grieving family members. But her will was clear. It had a clause that said if any family member contested it, they would receive exactly 1 Brazilian real. They didn't stay long. Daniel sent flowers. The card said, "We'll miss her." I threw it in the trash. At the will reading, there were no surprises. Everything to me. The house. The land. The savings. Even the old Chevy we spent 3 hours fixing years ago. But there was one last thing. A sealed envelope. Addressed to me. To be opened alone. Inside was a letter. Short. In her shaky handwriting. Emma, if you're reading this, I did my job. Not just as your grandmother, but as the only person who saw who you really were. I didn't build that fund to give you money. I built it to give you choices. And when they took that away, I wasn't furious because I lost money. I was furious because they took your choices. But you created new ones. Better ones. And now you have more choices than I ever could have given you. I'm proud of you. Not for the success, but for who you became despite everything. Keep building. Keep teaching. Keep proving that buried isn't the same as dead. You were always my favorite. With love. Grandma. I cried for hours. 6 months later, I opened the Grandma Owens Design Community Center. It was a small facility in a low-income neighborhood, offering free classes in design, home repair, and creative entrepreneurship. We used the land she left me. The building we built had her name on the front. On opening day, hundreds of people showed up. Students, families, local media, even some of my old high school teachers who finally recognized me as something beyond Daniel's quiet sister. I gave a short speech, talked about Grandma, about believing in people when no one else does, about giving second chances when the world says you don't deserve them. And when I cut the ribbon, I looked at the sky and whispered, "This is for you." Today, Emma Designs is a multi-million-dollar company. We have a team of 30 people, offices in 3 cities, contracts with major brands, an app with over 1 million downloads. But what I'm most proud of isn't the numbers. It's the stories. The girl who used our classes to renovate her elderly grandmother's house. The man who learned repair skills from us and started his own business. The single mother who transformed a closet into a functional bedroom for her children. Those are the victories that matter. As for my family, we never reconciled. My mother still sends occasional letters. I still don't respond. Daniel tried to add me on LinkedIn. I blocked him. My father? He never tried to reach out. And honestly, I prefer it that way. Because I learned that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who believes, who stays when everything falls apart. And in that sense, I have more family now than I ever did. Sophia, Lucas, Pixel Architect, the mentors from my program, the thousands of people who write to me saying I inspired them. That's my family. Sometimes when I'm alone in the studio late at night, editing videos or designing new projects, I think about how it all happened. I think about the 19-year-old girl sitting in her bedroom, looking at a tuition cancellation notification, feeling like her life was over. And then I look around, at the studio I built, at the business I created, at the lives I changed. And I realize my life didn't end that day. It began. They thought they had buried me when they took that money, when they forged that signature, when they told me I wasn't going anywhere. But they were wrong. Because you can't bury seeds and expect them to die. You bury them and they grow. And I grew. Through the concrete. Through the pain. Through everything. And now I'm unstoppable. My name is Emma Caroline Owens. I'm 22 years old. And I built an empire from crumbs. Not because they gave me permission, but because I realized I never needed it. And that's the best revenge of all. I don't hate them. I don't even think about them anymore. Because I'm too busy building something beautiful. And them? They're just people I used to know. If this story touched you in any way, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more stories of overcoming injustice. Your comments and support make all the difference for other people who may be going through similar situations. Until the next story.